Good morning. And first of all, I just want to say thank you. Thank you so much for letting me participate in this session. And special thanks to, Julie Chisho and for inviting me. Yes, I hope you don't mind. I talk a little bit about how we met and how I got to know this Sangha. In case you're curious. Before I introduce myself, I'm really happy to get to know this community. First through Julie Chisho. I think it was December, yes. My friend who has a small YouTube channel invited me for an interview session. I did that before during the pandemic with a couple of bigger YouTube channels, and one went well, the other one went a little bit funny. So I was just gonna sort of hold back a little bit for a while. But this person was a member of Sokoji Temple. That's where Shinryu Suzuki Roshi was sent initially. So I knew their sensei, the teacher, and I agreed, and I did a talk. And that's what Julie found, and she sent me. I thought it was originally more casual. I looked up the email you sent me initially. Very polite, and she introduced herself. She's from Zen Life and Meditation Center of Chicago, and asked me if I'd be interested in dating. Very unusual. Initially, I thought it was like a scam. So just in case, I Googled it. So Julie K. scamming. And that's how I found your community. And her talk, and I was just surprised what a beautiful community is. And then later we found that we had a mutual friend, Jichijio, from Zen Center of Los Angeles. And it's a big relief to find some good mutual friend. Then later on, I found out she knew Genro, Bernie, all the teachers and leaders from White Plant, and some other friends in ZCLA. And then learned about Roche June, Roche Robert, and realized that they're all connected to the Shozen Roshi, Tenshin Roshi. I happen to know them through the work that I do, and I got to know more of the names that I realized were connected. I started to have a little headache, like, okay, I should. It's like knowing the whole the connection, but it's been great. And one thing I realized through Sho was how much she's such a beloved community member, a Sangha member, how much she's loved. And I think that was a big reason for me to set up maybe a little plunge. But thank you. Yes. Now, myself, a little bit. I was born in Japan and raised, spent my first 34 years in Japan, and then moved to North America in 2012. So it's been 13 years since I moved. I say North America because I was first in Canada for the first couple of years. That's where I was married at the time, and my son was born. And then we moved down to the States. In 2014, I was, this kind of a blue rock suit is something that is given out to what we call Kokusai Fukyoshin international teachers. It's someone appointed by the Tokyo Soto organization. We have about 57 such teachers in North America. So you can see that's just a portion of the whole entire North American Zen communities. It's about the same number in Europe, South America, Hawaii, Hawaii has the longest history of this sort of activities. So I've been working as such missionary for the last 10 years in the US. And I served a couple of Japanese American communities. Both of them are sort of at the verge of sort of closing. They are sort of experiencing transitions, generational transitions. Japanese people are really good at assimilating. This assimilation included sometimes becoming Christians. So for some people, Buddhist temple continued to be the spiritual center. But as they assimilated, the tradition was somewhat got blurry and language lost. And language changed, so that's where I was asked to come in and help. I'm mostly combining the Western Zen movement with this ethnic Japanese American traditions together. It had been difficult until recently, but just a few years ago we had a 100th anniversary event where we came together and then celebrate this event. So I've been really fortunate to be involved in this, and also been working as a secretary of this branch office. And this office needs someone to just travel freely around the continent. So that's how I got to meet many wonderful Zen teachers during the last 10 years. That's how I got to know the Roshis in White Clan lineage. But before that, I was born again in Japan. I had more ordination at age 10, which isn't unusual. Then that was, so what year was it? 1988. And then I had my Dharma combat in 2007. So there's a big gap between my Shuketokudo novice ordination and Dharma combat. And that's where I had lots and lots of struggles. I think I left this path at least twice. And my teacher and my father technically gave up on me. So during those years, what I was doing, for the first several years, I was supporting my grandfather and my father, accompanying them. We don't sit, we do chanting. Instead of zazen, we sit in seiza. So that's how my grandfather taught me patience. He was also the one who gave me the Dharma name, although my original teacher is my father. My Dharma name is Gyoke, and Yuki is a regular name that I made. Gyo means practice, and K means respect. So that's my grandfather's message. Practice and respect. So you knew me well enough. And I was, but then I had a little bit of a complex family history. My mother died fairly early in my life. I was 12, I think. And she struggled, not so much because of this patriarchal culture, but there was something to do with it. My elder brother had some disability from meningitis. So she, usually when something happens to the children, women, typically mothers, get the blame. And because of the particular temple conditions, she just didn't have anyone she could consult with. So she had to sort of struggle with all the stress. And I know that was the major reason. So I had already developed some kind of anti-sentiment to this temple culture. Like, why is just something doesn't seem right? Still continued, and for my temple, somebody has to continue. And especially after World War II, family-run temple became very common. So I talked a little bit about women's leadership in the community temples, but that also means families have to bear this burden of making sure the temple continues. As I was turning a teenager when my father had the second marriage, I again encountered this question. As is often the case for teenage temple priest kids, I sort of left kind of a little bit in a different direction. I pursued English and spent a year in Canada. Then my personal hope was to become involved in some international work. Like maybe the greatest vision was like some sort of a diplomat. I didn't make it there. And then as I continued this path, I met a group of Jesuit missionaries in Tokyo who practiced Zen, did sessioning. And so I have been impacted by the Jesuits' culture, how they learn the local tradition and cultures sometimes, and languages. I had a particularly favorite Jesuit who taught me what a delinquent missionary he was. I love that little bit of a rebellious nature to Vatican. So when Pope, Francis became the Pope, I was just really happy that somebody came from Jesuit, finally. And they actually inspired me to go back to the Zen path. And I was 19 going on to 20, which is a good age, and which I did. I met, so I went to AH directly from this Jesuit school. And as is again, is a very typical case. I only spent a year, but I think it must have been something to do at that age, 19 to 20. Usually you go there at 23, sometimes 25, late 20s, with a little bit of experience in the society. I had virtually no experience. Both my parents were teachers, so I didn't really have a chance to work in a real world. So all I had was this big vision of Zen practice, and went to the monastery. Oh boy, every time I meet the Roshis from back then, I apologize, I'm so sorry. I remember writing a letter to my father after joining AAG, like my dad, like this place is nuts. And I seriously think this is some kind of a cult group. My father didn't say anything. He just respectfully sent it right back to the director of the AH monastery. I was called to the head temples. Yes. Well, I was born as the youngest of the three siblings, so I think I still carry in that, the tendency to, challenge questions. And there are lots of numerous stories regarding Zen over there. I met many wonderful teachers, especially the Zenji at the time was called Ekyo Miyazaki. He was 102 at the time. I was a Jikido, like summer. It was when the summertime they wake up at 3:30, and the winter time is 4:30. Then yes, I go into the Zendo, start lighting the candles, and then I realize there's already somebody there sitting. That was the Zenji. It's quite inspiring just to see him sitting there before anybody showed up. And of course, a little bit later, I started wondering, okay, if he's waking up that early, what time is his Jisha waking up? There are also silly stories too. Some experience, like really silly stories. We are so nervous about this. This is the wonder of Soto Zen practice. Any newcomers, they let newcomers, like us, ring this big bell. important jobs. And if we screw up, it's immediately obvious. And at one point I started asking, why do they make us do this? These are such important jobs. But they let us do this. And then we screw up, of course. But I didn't get to see this myself, but I heard a story of this training monk. We wake up everybody with a bell. Well, we're supposed to wake up with a bell, but reality is we have alarm set aside. But the rule is we can't let alarm ring more than 1 second. So they developed this kind of a ninja-like skill. But the moment that we use this kind of alarm, it hits the alarm, and we wake up and turn off this. Anyway, this person was supposed to go around in the monastery ringing the bell, and the ring broke on the way. He was so lost and didn't know what to do. So instead, I think it was so as a desperate attempt. He started just running around the monastery saying "ding ding 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 ding," and screaming. It's so comical. Yes. And then there's also really silly stories, like there's a senior monk who's so tense, like, serious, and saying, oh, the robe needs to be corrected, like fix the robe. And of course, we understand what it means from the context, but this young monk wasn't sure. So he goes to this senior monk's place and he starts fixing his robes. We're trying so hard to not laugh, but everyone's just so seriously engaged in the practice there. Yes, such was the place. Of course, these monks most of them were just graduated from college, some even from high school. In retrospect, it is pretty amazing such young boys are preserving these traditions. And they get silly sometimes, but serious at the same time. So such was the experience. We have all these rigorous training schedules, but I remember some things like sneaking out at night with a 1-year senior monk and looking at the star at night and just talking about what we're going to do after leaving the place. After I left the monastery, I thought it was going to be a wonderful experience toward the end, but I had a very serious questions. I'm not sure. I think I was just really not getting it myself with the practice. I went through some depressions. I think it was a sense of relief from the rigorous training schedule, thrown back to the society, and it was a serious depression. I thought it was serious depression. I checked with the doctor, and he said it's not as serious as I thought it was, but I kind of kept lingering. The challenge I faced was the meaning of the practice. So all these rituals, all this rigorous practice forms, I would spend so much time with my Christian friends and Catholic friends before and after. I was always looking for the meaning. There must be some meaning behind, somewhere other than what the practice was happening. And I asked this question to some roshis that I came to the monastery looking for opportunities to do the spiritual practice. And of course, this roshi says, well, you are doing the spiritual practice. And I just couldn't see it the whole time. The Sandokai, or let's see which it is, identity of relatives and absolute. Within light there is darkness, but do not try to understand that darkness. Within darkness, there's light, but do not look for that light. Light and darkness are a pair, like the foot before and the foot behind in walking. Relative and absolute. I think this was something that I was really engrossed. I was looking for that absolute mystery. Later I learned in Zen practice, the darkness is like the cool part. All the mysterious thing there. What I wanted to share, as we do Zazen practice, I'm not sure how you do consciously the abdominal breathing. Air goes into your abdomen, the air goes out. I think I've been doing the abdominal breathing ever since that time. In Japan, the guts, the abdomen has such an important meaning. This is where we sort of point as we identify ourselves. There are various expressions in Japanese, like hara o waru, splitting the abdomen. It sounds horrible, but splitting the abdomen means be honest, completely open and honest. If say he has a black abdomen, that means he has something evil hidden there. If something falls right into abdomen, that's how we understand. It has to go into the abdomen to understand. I like this expression. Some friends in Canada told me this word. I looked it up on Google. Guts brain axis. Do you know anybody knows? How the microorganisms, how the conditions, right, of these organisms affect our mood, cognitions, and behaviors. It's the body practice that affects your mind. And mind, of course, affects our body and behaviors and life. But Soto Zen practice was definitely this sort of emphasis that it comes from the guts. It comes from the practice. And that what forms us. So actions, the practice proceeds before the mind is formed. And for me, like I always sort of follow, no, we form the mind will manifest through actions. I think it's true, but this kind of practice is a way for us that mind proceeds and then our spiritual side gets formed. Yes. So the light and darkness is so subtle. I think I was just so inexperienced, which we were all, but we're wanting to grasp something that's more tangible. The Keizan Zenji, who established Sojiji Monastery after Dogen's time, Keizan Zenji didn't get to see Dogen in person, but his grandmother was a lay student of Dogen Zenji, and she inspired Keizan. He left this word, black spheres running through the darkness of night. Black sphere moving through the darkness of night. The practice unfolds like that. And I couldn't understand this point at the time. as Barney says, although Prajnas, this young monk screaming din 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 running through the monastery, you know, standing in gasho, not sure what to do. All the different senior monks and teachers, Roshi is giving us different input. Like, I don't know what to do here. You know, all this. Soto Zen is such an interesting culture to me, as Eiheiji and Sojiji have different styles, almost intentionally. Standing here in the Zendo, watching how I partially understand what's happening. I say it's partially because I learned AH style and how people enter the Zendo. And I know just from what I heard and watched and participated in ceremonies, how Sojiji does. So in this community, it has this strong basis of Sojiji. And a little bit of the Rinzai. I went to Rinzai temples just to see how the white plant or Maizumi Roshi incorporated the practice. So I can see that. The practice is a bit like a language. In English, it's typical. I mean, you have all different histories. Even this rose, on top of comes something from India, and underneath is something from China, and underneath this is something from Japan. So when you wear the rocks on top of t-shirt, like, yes, this is a American way. And some people are predictive, but I think. And the same with each lineages. We have these traces. And we are all doing slightly different versions. What we learn in the monastery in Sotoza school is, it depends. Sometimes we have a Roshi coming from different school. We check how the Roshi does the thing, and the whole team on the temple side checks, okay, so how are we supposed to do this time? I kind of keep looking around. And sometimes the Roshi comes to the temple and honors the culture of the temple, and Roshi checks with the students there, okay, so how is this supposed to happen here? So this kind of communication happens all the time. All the time. We establish something, forms, and practice, and we let go. And we let go over and over. The monks who train in AH for many years, sometimes they go to the next monastery and they are told, well, good luck. Here you go again, all over again. Even if you're not going to the same monastery, we'll go back to the community temple and they say, well, good luck, here's your real practice. And this practice sort of develops over time as we go through sickness, aging, loss of our family members, loss of friends, separations. I understand the Jindo Gohan who did those Tokudo to AI. I mean, he's very progressive, if I say it that way. But his point of what is the Dharma formation comes from is this real life experience. But as a school, he asks people to go through this monastic practice. So that's the big container, but then this real life experience continues. So that's what I saw. That's what I saw. How are we doing time-wise? As video audio key, I wanted to just share some insight or things that I thought once before I start questions and answers. When we pour what remains, what's remaining, interesting thing it does to us, or to me, I used to think like, why do we have to just do this way all the time? We have this expression, Kenkon wo donkyaku, swallowing up heaven and earth. That's an expression of attaining some deep understanding of this world, enlightenment. I like this expression personally, as we swallow up everything. I think it somehow gets reflected to this tendency to clean up the space before we leave the place, or just drinking up the whole thing. It's very symbolic actions, I always feel. I think it gets reflected in the way we relate to people, we work. I forgot to mention something important. Before I met Barney in 2006. So the time scale, I went to AH, got depressed. In those time I was depressed, I stayed away from the temple. I worked in Tokyo for some years as a translator. Eventually, I decided to come back to the temple on condition that I would be in touch with the Western Zen. And in 2006, Barney put this interesting article about Maizumi Institute in Montague, Massachusetts. And he was inviting Japanese priests to come and join him. I was just so happy to see this article. And I applied, went there. It turned out I was the only one who showed up. There was one other Japanese though, who was Bernie's Anja or Jisha, who had been accompanying him. I took this Zen Peacemaker Circle council, and then I joined Zen Peacemakers at the time. His inspiration was just unbelievable. I mean, people said he was already sort of quiet after a little less sort of active after he had lost his wife, teacher. But he was so inspirational. Social engagement was a concept he gave me. And I tried to do it with something I was good at, which was teaching. So I taught various students from different groups and communities, and somehow ended up becoming a counselor for the city for politics. Was initially fighting for the children of immigrants, and then expanding to elder populations in the mountain regions, sort of left neglected. So it just kind of in all directions. I do not recommend that path to other priest friends, but it was a good learning experience. Yes, so I was just happy to see his picture in the photo. Yes, so where am I going? The way I am feeling grateful to all the Zen, particularly the Zen teachers from White Plum lineage, starting with Barney, and then later on with all the Zen teachers, Tenshin Fletcher, Chosen Days. And now I'm so happy to meet and practice with you, Roche Robert. Thank you so much. I also this sort of continuous learning in the Western Zen with some American students and friends. So I'm learning a lot, just sitting with you. I'll stop in here. I'm not sure what time we are now. 36. Oh, 36. Oh, okay. Yes.
At least an hour.
Oh, okay, that's good. Oh,
You can talk any length.
oh, really?
You
Okay.
can have questions if you want to.
I want to have
Ask
some
people
time
ask
for
questions.
questions. Yes. Okay, then maybe just one thing, last thing, that about Maizumi Roshi. I never had a chance, of course, like many of you, hadn't had a chance to meet him, but Zenshiji Temple is one temple that I go weekly to support as a fellow missionaries. Maizumi Roshi was sent to Zenshiji Temple before he started his activities for ZCLA and Yokoji. And some people remember him serving tea to the guests. I got to see his video. Yes, we have this question always. I mean, he was going to be the bishop, right, of North America until he passed away. So there's always this big what if, how things might have been different or might not have. I just say that I'm probably one of the many typical Japanese temple priest kids who grew up in that condition. You may see it's such a privileged West place, but many are sort of feeling uncertain about how we continue. As Japan keeps changing with declining population, it's plummeting actually, it's visibly decreasing. And naturally, we are expecting a decrease of monks. I'm already receiving requests from the Japanese temples to send American training priests for Dharma combat. There have a shortage of training monks already. With that, they're reflecting on how the way they have been running the community are coming to the point where it's no longer effective. And these young monks are seriously looking for ways to continue. And there's sort of a dialogue strongly expanding. So with the practice of not knowing, I don't want to bring in any sort of shallow assumptions, but I can see waves, the wheels turning. And as someone who was there and who felt, in my case, drowned in the tradition, the practice and value of the practice was so black. In the darkness of the night, I had no idea what was happening. So this genuine curiosity that people have, this pursuit or aspiration that keeps coming from the Western side, to me is huge relief and inspiration that how much people care. So I just want to say thank you, John, continuing to inspire us. I'll stop it here. You have some questions?
Sure. Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing. Wow. Oh, yes. Thank you so much for sharing your story and traditions. I was wondering what Buddhism or Zen in particular is like or affects at all householders, people like us that are, out in the world. Do they interact at all or appreciate the Zen practice or Buddhism in Japan. Yeah.
We're just about to have this Japan Youth Dialogue probably next March, again with this youth group, and they're particularly interested in these differences. Not just Japanese, but in Asian countries, there are just priests or monks, or priests in the community, and lay supporters. So lay practitioners population, it's there, they're there, but much smaller compared to the US. And the participation of the people is seen a little differently. People participate in the temple activities through flower arrangement. We have a sort of a kind of choir-like group. We call this goeka, maybe Hawaii, Japan. My stepmother is staying at the temple when I left, and she's leading this group. Well, the other ways that people connect with the temple, what I saw with my own eyes, like I was saying yesterday, people come to the temple just to talk about things. One wife of this priest who was invited to the US-Japan Buddhist chaplaincy dialogue in Berkeley last year was saying, maybe what we are doing in a temple community, just very casually at the entrance. You know, entrance in Japanese temples have a space. You can sit and chat. It might be just what the US chaplaincy organization might be talking about. Except we don't label it that way, but that's sort of how it's happening. I also saw how we do not close the, we had a luxury of being able to keep the door of the temple unlocked. Now it's a little different, but there was always a way for people to get in the temple, and sometimes young woman comes to the temple. They go to the specific altar of Jido Bodhisattva, Kushtigarva. That's a Sanskrit word. We do not interact. The devotee would just, usually alone, goes there, sits there, go home. Jizo Bodhisattva is known for watching over children, especially the stillborn babies. Yes. Sometimes the priest work that we did was just say thank you to the community members. I think it's still the same in Japanese American community that I serve, that we need to have someone recognizes. And we had this really realistic thing, because we take care of ancestors and memorial services in the temple communities, especially in rural part. Younger children leave the community, elder siblings stay. Parents are there. Typically, elder children take care of them as they age. But as they come to that point of life closure or passing on, I've learned that younger children who left the community usually start to come back and say, well, my brothers and sisters had everything from my parents, which we didn't get. So one of our jobs, it's a tough one, was to prevent the disputes among the children. It was just one of the most realistic things. And when it comes from the priest, they listen. So we have to protect this family from kind of collapsing from within. So we had a very unique role there. Sorry, I wasn't ready to respond to your question.
You did.
Okay.
What was the role and what is the benefit to? And you mentioned chaplain, and here one of the things a chaplain does is help someone in that time of transition, a death, and the family in that time of transition. And it sounds like that's something that the priest or the monks might help people with as well, from what you mentioned. Yes. Thank you.
I want to just, oh,
I don't know how good of a question this is, but I'm just curious what like a bishop would have meant for the U.S. Like I don't understand how that is structured.
oh, thank you. Yes, this is just a structure. I work for the current bishop, Gengo Akiba. He's great. He's great. He can be blunt sometimes, but he's very knowledgeable. And as a teacher, relatively speaking, as a teacher to some students, I need teachers around. If you don't have teachers, we often have mentors around. So Akiba Roshi has been my mentor and teacher for all these years. He made me cry at least 3 times in the last 2 years. That's... his job is basically represent this sort of value of the school. And he has to do sometimes jobs saying what the school would say, which doesn't always align with what is happening in North American communities. I used to think, again, a youngest child, I was like, what does he know about this? I can't just automatically respect the person I don't know. So I think he sensed that. And then I realized later on that yes, he knows. He practiced at Yokoji. He spent some time in Sahara. He doesn't say, I think it's that generation, he doesn't say so much. He's like, why didn't he tell me more about that before, so that I would have respected you more? So I do have a deep respect to him. He knows, yet he says what he has to say. Well, I can just share my personal experience. I left my country in hope to serve, particularly my Canadian friends. They have a slightly different situations compared to the US. And I've been traveling a lot. So Akiba Roshi says to me, like, well, I have to tell you something. You have your students here. You have a responsibility. You're assigned to serve. So fulfill your duties. Don't goof around, traveling around. And I said, well, that's what I have to say as a bishop. I'm going to tell you what I would say as a friend, a person. Just don't worry about it. Just get the heck out of here. That's what Katagi Roshi did. That's what Maizumi Roshi, all the teachers did. And trust the Dharma. That's what he said. So he has, that's the kind of role. And I don't think not everyone enjoys it. But that's kind of represent the whole culture of Soto Zen school. Very much so. Very much so. They say this is what you have to do. But then at the end, said,
So what you have to understand about Sotoshu is it's an organization, and they have different. It has hierarchy and positions, and the bishop is like a kind of a almost. Would you say it's almost a political?
very much
Position of kind of representing the head of the whole Sotoshu organization in America. And so Maizumi Roshi was going to become the bishop right before, but then he unfortunately died. So that's, there are these different, this is not real familiar to us, but in Japan they have lots of hierarchy, and the Sotoshu is an organization, and they have different levels and roles that people have.
yes, there are different roles. And that's basically the head of the branch office and regions. We have European person for such position, South America, Hawaii. So we started talking about Oceania, but then yes, haven't happened yet.
I think it was about 10 years ago, Julie and I traveled to Japan to see my relatives in Hiroshima. And while there, of course, we had to stop at Eiheiji, which we did, and it was very exciting. It's like a pilgrimage for us. I don't remember seeing any women there who were practicing. Are there women at Eiheiji that practice with the men?
No, well, definitely not at the time I was training. And there is a conversation happening. What I heard was still under the surface. Eiheiji is already kind of, well, I don't want to take you away, make you feel like you're going away from this whole Dharma-centric sort of Dharma practice of Dharma. Well, it's all included in there, of course. I'd like to say Tao is big, but in Eiheiji, yes, there has been this movement. So Rosh John Halifax has been invited to give lectures. Current director is very progressive. If I might say, yes, there is this conversation. And I think there will be at one point, and they're just waiting for the right time. And there's often a question when we have a conference for Americans and teachers, we want to see more women teachers coming from Japan. One visible major change that we saw was with Sojiji Monastery. Aoyama Roshi, who is the head of Aichi Isodo family, she has always been known as a great teacher, and she's the director there. But the number of women teachers itself are relatively small. So it's now being explored. I get this voice from Americans and teachers. Is there anything that we are doing here in this country that might be inspiring the Japanese side? And some teachers would like to know. This is just my personal opinion. There is lots happening, but as is often the case with Japanese culture, they don't say it. It's not clearly visible there, but it is happening. And yes, well, and that requires a lot of preparations, including, changing some building structures and all this. Toshoji Temple, where a lot of Western practitioners these days go, Seto Suzuki Roshi is the head there. He was working with Daido Lori Roshi one time for New York Zen Center, New York Zen Mountain Monastery. And he was also in Europe, so he knows what it means to practice in the West and comes to Japan. He has accepted so many different Western Zen practitioners, both men and women. So he has been one of the advisors here. And what I know for sure is Hoitsu Suzuki Roshi, Shinju Suzuki Roshi's son, is serving both this Toshoji and Eiheiji. So what I heard from directors was they are learning what Toshoji has been doing. They wanted to sort of reach out to the Western Zen communities to come to the temples, Eiheiji. They're very polite. They were asking if any of my friends and students would be interested in going there. And of course, I thanked them. Thank you so much. But in my heart, Yes, well, I will do that if you are ready for this. Are you really ready for this? That was my genuine question.
Yes.
Are you able to accommodate people who can only eat like gluten free, who have some, different sort of gender identities, different types of particular needs? Can you all kind of embrace this all together and practice? And I know my partial medium, they're not ready there yet, but they're trying. And there are smaller monasteries who are already tackling it, doing it.
Right, isn't there a monastery in Kamakura who has a woman abbess? Is it Tokeiji? I don't remember.
Maybe. I always think Rinzai temples are, you know how there have multiple head temples? And monastery itself is small in terms of the number of practitioners. And people who go to Rinzai training places. My middle school day friends is a Rinzai monk. He went there, he didn't want to come back. He enjoyed it so much. And I envied him. Like, oh my gosh, I hated the training at AH. Like, what is this guy loving Zen training so much? I think they're also very innovative sometimes. The chanting that you chant, the Shinjinmin, which is how you translate it here.
Shosaimyo?
No, it's let's see. Oh, no. I'm sorry. The non-duality sutra. Page 3? No. And I just have to see this. The mind of absolute trust.
Yes. Yeah.
This one's sometimes seen as Rinzai Sutra, although Soto Zen temples do chant this. Yes. It's something very clear, but I didn't get to have a chance to chant this sutra. We chanted identity of relative and absolute. Every time I chanted, like, I don't know what I taught chanting. It took some time. Yes. It's often seen that Soto Zen is a little more subtle and difficult to sort of penetrate. And when you do penetrate, it's like it's a big breakthrough. So I understand how my Zuni Roshi wrote the koan practice. I heard a little bit story that it's very consciously bringing koan practice.
So I have a question, if you're willing to share.
Yes.
You said you were in a darker place, that you went through some depression, and I'm curious what you learned or what you saw that shifted you.
You might have experienced all this. Like I was a college student, so I had all these ideas about life and what I was gonna do in the temples, where I was. Well, we did go through some sleep deprivation, which it wasn't designed to make us suffer or anything, but we're just not used to that style of life, and a little lack of vitamin D. Which was really humiliating, actually, because we always wanted to go to the restroom all the time. So we're only thinking, I have to go to a restaurant. Well, I'm hungry. I'm going to go to a restaurant. I'm hungry all the time. So I was in this mode, like self-negation. This isn't me. I'm better than this. This can't be me. And you just have to come to this conclusion. Yeah, sure, this is me. And that really needed to happen in a sense. So, the mystery of the practice was that I felt horrible, and I felt like I was in a darker place. and all the oryoki meal practice. I was just so sick and tired of it. Just went straight to McDonald's. I want to eat it. And every time people meet me and said, you know, why you're acting differently? Like, yeah, I think your just movements are different, and like you're, you know, and I'm sure it's just a muscle memory. But I think muscle memory is one thing, but there's something a little more mysterious to that. Like how we perceive ourselves and how we practice doesn't always match. And then it can be happen both ways. We might be thinking we're doing great, but it's not really happening that way. But I think what I saw was the other side. Like we're just not doing right, but we are actually doing walking on path. So that was that mysterious side of that little place. How did I come back from the depression? Many friends helped me. Actually, I was hanging out with all my Christian friends, doing Bible studies. And it was really helpful. I mean, if I might share, I really needed to really spend time with, let's say, sincere people who are serious about the truth. I just needed that time. And I feel really, very, very sorry to all my Christian friends, because I'm sure in their eyes I must look like a failed Christian. I respected, like I enjoyed every bits and pieces of this study. But the more I did, the more pull, gravity that I felt back toward the Dharma. I'm pretty sure, like, you know what I'm talking about. So again, for someone like me who would just left this kind of usually difficult to understand sutras, we keep chanting this for decades, and one day one line starts to make sense. That's our experience often. Here we have this basis of jumping into the scriptures, exploring this truth. Then you start to see the lights. Then you start to see the presence, some subtle sign of darkness, the mysterious side. So I'm really fascinated how people in this country are drawn to Dharma because of its particular sort of cultural foundations. Anyway, Western Zen definitely kind of was keeping me in this world still. So thank you. All right.
We have Sam.
Yeah, this one.
I just want to say thank you so much for coming to our Zendo. Whenever I first started to engage with Zen, I read a bunch of books. And what led me to here is reading about that. I kept saying, you know, to experience Zen, you cannot just learn about it in a book. Like, you can't read it to know it. And I'm very lucky to live where I live now, because I was from rural Missouri, which is the central part of the country, and there is no Zen temples. And I looked up and I found that there is a Zen temple 10 minutes from my house. and I came here, and I'm so privileged to have a Sangha that I didn't think I would have, and to experience directly what Zen is through the community and through our teachers and through everything that is here at the Zendo, and to get that experience. And I remember when I first came here and everyone started doing Kinhin, and I was like, I don't know what this is, because I didn't read about this, about the walking. You can do walking meditation, I don't know, and and just kind of going along with it, and just the kind of explosion of experience to be able to have the direct experience. And I feel that more so now, even with you, because you're like an ambassador to the rest of Zen. And you've come here and you've brought so much just in the short time. And I feel so much deeper of a connection because you brought so much from everywhere you've been to and your experience, and connecting us to everyone else. So thank you.
Thank you so much for your kind words. Yes. I just how it happened. I feel entangled sometimes. And my friend doesn't hesitate to call me like, you're one effed up monk. I agree, yes. One thing at the end I want to say is I just got to see so many different communities. I love the vibe of this community and the maturity of the view on the Dharma. I mean, all Zen community is great, but I particularly found this community interesting. I think through Roche Jun's kind of cultural backgrounds through Hawaii, like a little, it's just kind of like a three-dimensional, and then, I'm sure probably that you probably know how it's been, Zen teachers, Akiba Roshi was too, very strict initially, and they start to kind of mellow down. I'm really inspired. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, thank you.
Prepare for lunch.
Okay.
Thank you
So much. I don't know. It's okay.
Oh, it's lovely.
Thank you.
I think it's actually really useful for us to hear kind of perspective from Japan and what you're dealing with the shoshu and the challenges you have, and then trying to translate what you have in your culture to the rest of the rest. It's complicated.
Yes.
You're kind of dealing with it, so I really respect that about you. So that stuff you really do is so Japanese and I'm really grateful.
I'd love to have one experience that I have.
You said the opposite.
For me, the lay formation process sounds like I'm struggling with one has I didn't hear about really
Everything I really like in you is
Thank you.
I think you're very well. Please take good care of each other.
Yes.
So
I
happy to have you.
I do very well. Thank you. And I see you as my good mentor, especially now.
Very much.